back to the KleenWerks Auto Detailing channel. My name is Mac. While I was editing this video that you're about to watch, it turned out to be something completely different than what I originally had intended. There's a lot of jam-packed information in here, so grab a pen and paper, your favorite drink, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So here's one of the realities about being a professional auto detailer, especially if you're a huge car enthusiast like myself. The client is not necessarily going towards the paint correction route because he thought his car looked really good when he dropped it off. So he just wants it clean and protected, and after speaking with him, you know, that's what he wants, that's what I'm getting paid for. However, me as a huge car enthusiast that appreciates this car for more than just being fast or, you know, whatever. It's got the heritage from Porsche behind it. It's got real center lock wheels, carbon ceramic brakes. It's a 911 Turbo S, so it's like the fast Porsche. As the detailer, you are putting your signature on it. I would feel super guilty and kind of embarrassed letting this car leave without having some sort of work done to it. Anything that we do is gonna make the car look better. I just wish that we could do more, but unfortunately the circumstances do not allow. But this car is still going to look really, really good. If you have a car that you don't wanna put a lot of time and money into, whether you're the owner or the professional detailer or whatever, you know, you have to be very realistic. This is just a way to improve the paint work. I'm gonna show everyone out there watching how I go about balancing out my time and my profitability, but also what I would consider pretty high standards here at KleenWerks versus the customer expectations and what I'm actually getting paid for to do. To the client, I mean, this is going to way exceed his expectations. And as a detailer, it would deem acceptable. It would need more work, but unfortunately we can't do that. However, I would sign it off as acceptable as far as the level of improvement and the difference that it's going to make. So why do I keep talking about this? Because me as a detailer, I'm going to notice every single little thing about this car. And honestly, not even the average person, like even if you're a car enthusiast, you're not going to be paying as much attention to the condition of the exterior of your car unless you detail cars or you do body work or things like that. You know, it's one of those hazards of the job, that kind of thing. I see cars driving on the road during the summer or whatever, you know, right when the light hits it and you're in traffic, and I see what conditions some of y'all cars are. It's pretty horrendous to me as a detailer. It gives me anxiety. So right here is the combo for Porsche Black Soft Paint. Jets Car Correcting Compound with a Meguiar's Microfiber Cutting Pad, and then following up with Sonak's Perfect Finish with a Fine Cut Pad. This one happens to be from Rupes. However, the circumstances and the situation of this car, we're gonna be using Sonak's Perfect Finish and the Fine Cutting Pad from Rupes. By the way, how you use these two as far as your polishing technique goes, that's another subject for a different video, but this is what I would use on this car. You guys are gonna see that just the Sonak's Perfect Finish is going to make a huge, huge improvement. So a one-stage correction isn't going to get everything out. Yes, there's gonna be deeper imperfections. With the pad and polish combo that I'm going to use, it's a really nice balance between the amount of imperfections it removes versus the gloss levels, because Porsche Black is actually very hard to finish out. Because if you use something a little bit too aggressive, even the tiny amount of bit, even if your towel's dirty, you're gonna inflict more damage into the paint. Some of you are maybe asking, well, why don't you use an all-in-one polish where it's designed to be a one-stage? Well, here's the thing. It's going to put a lot of haze into the paint. So you would actually have to follow up with a finishing polish to get the haze out. The pad and polish combo that I'm going to be using is a nice balance between the amount of imperfections it removes and the amount of haze it leaves behind. It basically has no haze. It leaves the deeper scratches in, yes, but it doesn't actually have any haze. Long story short, deeper scratches and deeper imperfections are better than haze. Hazing on the car is going to make it look really, really bad, especially on soft black. Deeper imperfections, you're not gonna see them unless you get really up close or you're walking around with it with a light. Earlier I mentioned that how you use products, tools, and techniques is a heavily involved concept that most people don't realize. If you figure it out, you are going to do the best job possible. Every single thing you use, what you're working on, and what you are trying to achieve all dictate how you are going to perform a specific detail. You can use certain products, tools, and techniques to your advantage. Even with all these different tools and products on the market, I recommend that small and intricate areas be done by hand. Sometimes the traditional way is the best way. The overall shape of whatever car you're working on has a major effect on your polishing technique. On various curves and areas around the car, you have to pay attention to if your machine is stalling. Bigger is not always better. Arm speed and pressure also have an effect on polisher stalling. There is factory paint protection film on most Porsches. I am using a slightly less aggressive polish on these areas. I love Sonak's Perfect Finish, but it just doesn't do what I want it to do on paint protection film. Paint protection film is not car paint. It responds to tools, products, and techniques differently. And honestly, after 10 years of washes and rock chips, this factory PPF is pretty hammered. Yes, I'm going over the edge. This car is not worth me taking the extra time to tape off all the PPF edges. Residue is easy to remove from those edges. It's when you get old residue in the edge, that's when it becomes a huge pain in the butt. If you know what you're doing, you will not damage or ruin an area of the car. You are never going to be able to fit an average size dual action polisher in these side ducts. That's where my Carbon Collective Nano Polisher comes into play. It is a little bit of a learning curve if you're thinking about getting one of these. However, it does come in handy, especially on this particular detail. Because of this car and its shape, I used my Nano Polisher more than my 5-inch Rupes. I got really acquainted with it, and apart from an issue that you'll see later in the video, I love this thing. The spoiler is one of the very few relatively flat panels on this car. This results in more pressure being applied during general handling of the car, meaning there is going to be more damage on these panels. To make it look presentable, I actually did a 2-stage cut and polish in order to remove a solid amount of those imperfections. Do you guys see all that orange peel or whatever? The camera doesn't do it justice, but that's basically heavy grit sanding marks. So this wing does require more work than what I just did, but that's all I have time for We're just trying to improve it. I have a suspicion that this might have been painted or wet sanded in the past, which further proves my point that whoever was working on this shouldn't have worked on this.
There are areas on this car where a 3-inch machine would apply. However, the nano polisher was already out, good to go, so I just used that. If you use a smaller machine and use it correctly, you can produce some very high quality results. Edge work and tighter spaces are a breeze with a nano polisher. When polishing a car, a normal dual action polisher performs its best on flat surfaces. But when it comes to curves and tight areas, the smaller the machine, the better. You have a very low chance of stalling and better control, which produce better results. Keep in mind this is a very soft paint, so when working with soft paint, gently glide the towel to remove a majority of the residue. Don't scrub or wipe excessively. Have a few clean towels handy. Just get the polishing done and we will remove the excess residue after the polishing stage and before the protection application. By the way, you can do all of these intricate and small areas with a 5-inch machine, but you're just going to do a better job if you have the right resources. Sometimes having the right equipment is going to drastically minimize your risk of potential damage. If you're not careful, the backing plate of your machine, which is spinning the pad, might hit a surrounding area or an edge, causing serious surface damage. Better to be safe than sorry.
So I saw a few people talk about how the plastic threaded rod that goes into the counterweight, the 2-inch backing plate, I've heard a lot of people say that it tends to strip in the counterweight, and that's what happened to me, so now I have to get this out.
So I got the broken piece out and continued to use the 1-inch backing plate. I'm told a metal replacement for the 2-inch backing plate is available and it's on the way. So, no harm, no foul.
This is why I said don't worry about residue control. When you're actually doing the polishing stage, all you want to do is just pick up that residue. Don't try to pick up all of it, because at the end, once you're finished with the whole car, you can actually prep it for the type of protection that you're going to be using. There's different ways about doing this. Some people finish a panel, they wipe it down with an IPA or rinseless wash or whatever. Or people like me, where we just do everything and we clean it all up at the end. Now you can use isopropyl alcohol for this. However, I found out that rinseless wash is actually the best way of doing this. So I'm gonna show you guys how I go about doing that.
There's always going to be dust in the air. First, I blow off the car so I'm not picking up any dirt in my towel. The paint is very delicate and it's very easy to scratch and ruin. As a detailer, we try to touch the car as little as possible in order to prevent damage. So take your rinseless wash or IPA and don't be afraid of using a lot. The more lubrication you provide is almost recommended in some cases, especially on soft black paint. You want to wipe in straight line motions, apply enough pressure just to be able to move the towel. Let the towel glide and lift the residue off of the surface. Pressing harder is not going to do anything besides create micro marring. Grab a second towel to give the surface a final wipe. After every panel wipe, check your towel for any dirt that might have found its way there. Flip your wet towel occasionally so you're not reintroducing any contamination. That's old polishing or wax residue. It dries up and becomes a very fine dust when removing. It's also a huge eyesore for a detailer. Using a toothpick and very light pressure, I basically ride the edge of the paint protection film to remove that residue. This is perfectly safe if you're familiar with this process. And then I used alcohol to give it a final wipe and remove any dust. I put a lot more time and effort into it than I probably should have on this car, but that's okay. It makes me feel good, and I know the car is actually gonna look pretty good for a decent period of time. So improvement doesn't mean anything if you don't protect it. So we're not going with a ceramic coating on this car, but we are going to be applying some decently durable protection, and I'm gonna take you guys through the process of that. And the after shots of this car are going to look really, really cool, just because you guys will see how it's like outside. So for protection, I am going to be applying some Ceramic Pro Sport. This is better than the stuff that you can buy just online or at any store, but it's not necessarily a real ceramic coating, but it does provide at least a year of durability, so that's pretty good. Realistically, anything you buy at the store, you'll get probably like 6 months out of it. And then we have 2 separate towels, and you have to apply this stuff wet. So we have a clean bucket filled with distilled water and a clean microfiber towel. I want you guys to realize that when I'm wiping this car, it's just me making sure that the towel doesn't fall out of my hand. When you're applying any sort of protection, you will feel the surface getting slick as you're buffing away the excess. Soft paint is very delicate, and the wrong amount of pressure or movement will ruin your work as you're completing the final step. It's very annoying and very frustrating. Black paint shows everything, so you will have to look at the car from all angles and viewpoints to make sure you didn't miss any areas. You will see a visible difference in the finish. We've been getting a lot of snow and cold temperatures lately, so every car you see on the road looks like that red Mazda. Imagine going out for a drive in this Kleen, with a K, Porsche 997. I pulled the car back inside to await collection from the owner. The car is by no means perfect, and I wish we could have done more, but it definitely needed this detail. It was a labor of love from KleenWerks. We've made a significant improvement in the overall condition of the car, and I'm very, very pleased with the results. If you have any questions, write them down below. I'm usually pretty active in the comments. You can also check out my YouTube community tab and follow me on Instagram for behind the scenes. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of KleenWerks Auto Detailing. Smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. And as always, stay clean.
Any ideas?